People love to bag on humid DC summers, but I actually love them. And what better way to kick off this summer than with Columbia Heights Day on June 15th? So the rumor is that this idea came about when a bunch of friends were tossing around ideas over beers at Wonderland Ballroom. And shockingly, they actually followed through with it. And now the day is still around 16 years later. So there's going to be a dunk tank, a mechanical bull, a bouncy house, and even a watermelon seed spitting competition. So come out to it. It's at Harriet Tubman Elementary School on June 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's going to be fun.
Yesterday was Election Day, and our interim executive producer, Julia Karen, has your election results.
Thanks, Bridget. Okay, so mostly incumbents ruled the day here in D.C. At-large Councilmember Robert White, Ward 2's Brooke Pinto, Ward 4's Janice Lewis-George, and Ward 8's Trayon White all won their primaries, though those last two did face tougher challengers than you might have expected. We will be talking about that more on Friday during our roundup. Meanwhile, U.S. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton and Shadow Rep Oye Owolua also held onto their seats. Where things get interesting is the Shadow Senator race and the Ward 7 Council seat. As of this recording, at roughly 11 p.m. on Tuesday night, Ankit Jain is leading for the Shadow Senator spot, but barely. And after a really close race, Wendell Felder declared victory as the new Ward 7 council member with just a 300-vote lead. Tune in to our episode on Friday for updated results and analysis. Alrighty, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Thanks, Julia. Now that that's done, we can get to today's episode. Today on CityCast DC. If you've ever seen me out and about IRL, odds are I was wearing my signature vintage denim jacket, one of the DC thrifting finds I am most proud of. The DMV area actually has tons of good spots for thrifting, so I connected with Cindy Hui, owner of Disco Loft, a popular DC secondhand account on Instagram, to lay out our guide for thrifting in DC. Today's Wednesday, June 5th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC's talking about. So, Sydney, our producer Ash and I were actually having a little bit of a debate off mic before you logged on. And Ash was saying that the DMV area has the best thrifting in the country. Do you agree?
Oh my gosh, that is a bold statement. You know, I can't honestly say yes or no confidently because I haven't thrifted too much around the US. I've seen some really awesome TikToks of people going on thrift road trips. And I feel like, Ash, you might hate me, but I think that there might be better thrifting in some other states. But, until I do the thrift trips myself, I can't say for certain.
So what exactly is the thrift vibe here in DC?
I think that the thrift vibe in DC is great. If you have access to some of the neighboring areas like in Maryland or Virginia, I definitely think that the thrifting is really great. I think in DC specifically, in DC proper, it's, there's not too many options for people that want to go thrifting. But if you can get out to Maryland and Virginia, there's a ton of stores. So I think that, there's a lot of really great options for people if it's accessible to them.
Let's talk about some of those options. What are your favorite places to go thrifting? Not just in DC, because it sounds like maybe DC doesn't have the robust thrifting options that, say, a Maryland or a Virginia might have.
Yeah, so some of my favorite companies that have thrift stores throughout the Maryland and Virginia area are the Unique and Savers groups, as well as Second Ave. Definitely check those out. They're really large, and they would definitely, I would say, are some of my favorites. And of course, Goodwill. There's locations all over the DMV. There are definitely some that are better than others, but I would definitely check out those brands for sure.
One interesting thing about thrifting is that, I wear secondhand clothes. I love a deal on anything used, but I have heard from people who are advocates of thrifting and secondhand clothes and used products that something that can put folks off is the idea that owning something used or getting something from Goodwill is gross or unsanitary. What are your thoughts on that? Have you found that to be a stigma around thrifting?
Yeah, Bridget, I've definitely found that to be a stigma for thrifting. I've actually thrifted my entire life. And so I do think that the stigma is lessening around, used and secondhand, both clothing, accessories, and even like homewares and goods like that. But, what I always say is, I would rather things get saved from a landfill. And to be honest, in my opinion, getting something from like the house section of a thrift store, it's not that different than, using a menu or using tableware at a restaurant. You're supposed to wash everything. I definitely get some questions about that. I would hope that everyone's using those practices in their own homes, but, there's a lot of ways to really clean, clothing, accessories, and things like that. So I would definitely recommend doing that. But I would say probably in the last couple of years or so, it's not so much a topic that's brought up because I think people have access to learning about ways to clean stuff, whether it's on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And just since more people are doing it, I think that we're kind of, making it less of a stigma, I guess.
So to that end, in terms of how you've seen thrifting change over the years, what else have you seen changing? Like folks are sort of educating themselves and bringing down this stigma that wearing used clothes is gross or unsanitary. What other changes have you seen?
I guess coming along with that is, I've seen just a wider range of people at the thrift stores and also including that, just a wider range of things at the thrift store. And then I think people, just because, maybe they're more aware of the thrift stores in their area or what types of things can or not, be donated. I feel like I've seen just more in general at the thrift store when it comes to like products to buy.
Ooh, have you found anything while thrifting in the DMV area that you're like, that was a wild find? I cannot believe I found that, or somebody I know found that. Like, do you have any good thrifting finds that you still can't believe?
I honestly have been thrifting for so long that I have like a running list. I'm trying to think of my like favorite find. It's hard when your whole apartment is thrifted and you're like, what is my favorite thing? So my favorite find of 2024 is I found this phone, which is shaped like a piano. It's definitely vintage. It definitely does not work, but it's so random and so unique that when I saw it, I immediately knew that I wanted to have it and use it as decor. And it just brings me so much joy. I would never have found something like that at a brand new at a store.
Yeah, I love those kinds of like finds that you're just not necessarily expecting because it is more than clothes. Like people find all kinds of things while they're thrifting. I knew somebody who found one of those big floor globes at a Goodwill and then went home and looked it up. And it turns out that it was a model of floor globe that retailed for like $4,000 and they got it for $45,000.
Wow, that's such a good find. I love hearing people's wins like that. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I feel like when you get a good score at a thrift shop and someone's like, oh, great, whatever, where'd you get it? You're like excited to be like, I thrifted it. Can you believe it?
100%. You have to like restrain me from saying that I got something and it was thrifted and like tell them how much it costs.
I mean, I wonder, like, do you find that it's more rewarding to thrift something really cool than just buy it online or buy it in a store? Like, is that process more meaningful?
For me personally, I think that it is, just because I've heard it from friends and just people in general. Like, to tackle a thrift store, you have to put in some energy and have the patience to kind of go through everything, since it's not, 20 of the same shirt or 20 of the same dress. You have to be willing to really sift through things. And so when you find something really special, I mean, for me, it's so exciting and I want to be able to share that with people. And a lot of times I do find just excitement around it because usually it's a pretty unique piece. You don't know if it was even made in that year. And so it's not something that other people can necessarily just go and find pretty easily. So I definitely take pride in my thrift finds.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun, but with Paulson & Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson & Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates Samantha Peters and Maya Perry handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson & Nace has even been recognized as one of U.S. News' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson & Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com. That's PAULSONANDNACE.com. Or call 202-463-1999.
Experience a live performance with premium seating at Warner Theater or the Fillmore Silver Spring. Live Nation Premium amenities totally change the concert experience with things like complimentary parking and private entry. Members also have access to in-seat wait service and exclusive food and beverage menus. Trust me, there is no better way to experience a live performance of a band, comedian, or even podcaster you love. Premium members get access and offerings before doors open to the VIP speakeasy-style 1924 lounge at Warner Theater and Vertigo Lounge at the Fillmore. Visit premium.livenation.com for more information or contact Mary Claire Griffin at maryclairegriffin@livenation.com or at 202-626-8255. So I know you run Disco Loft, which I follow and love. You know, it's a very popular account where you're really showcasing some of the different secondhand finds that you've encountered. What has been the effect of running these social media accounts where like you are showing secondhand goods in the DMV? Like, what has that been like for you?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say I appreciate it, Bridget. It's still so wild to me that I'm able to share the love of thrifting with so many people and connect with people over sustainability and just, finding love of secondhand stuff. But it's been really, really wonderful. And, my whole goal of sharing stuff on Instagram and selling it through the Disco Loft is really just to make thrifting more accessible for people. My whole life, as I said, I've been thrifting, but even in the past years of adulthood, I would go thrifting and even just my friends would be like, will you take me? Or I'm too intimidated by the thrift store. Or, I can't get out there the same days that you want to go. Or maybe even I don't want to spend as much time as you do when you are out there. And so being able to share, these thrifted home goods with people, I'm trying to just bring those items to them and share that. And it's been such a joy being able to connect over those things and give those items a second life.
So for folks who are listening who want to get involved in the secondhand community here in DC, what would you tell them? Like, how can they get involved?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways. It really depends on if you want to be, just as a consumer or if you want to get into reselling. But as a consumer, I would say, there's a lot of really great vintage markets. And I've had people tell me that they've met other people just, browsing around. So definitely check out some of those that are popping up in the DC area, as well as, not to plug myself here, but the clothing swap that I host along with some other really amazing organizers is such a great way to get into the secondhand scene in DC. One, because the vibe is really great and people are all there for a common goal, which is, finding new clothes and sustainably refreshing their closet. But it's just such an amazing way to, find stuff for yourself, get rid of some of the things that you've been holding on to that you no longer need. But then also just, meeting people. It's been a really great experience watching that grow and having people say, I've complimented someone on a piece that they picked up and now we're going to the next swap together. So getting into that way. And then just as a consumer too, there are a lot of also like thrifting events in the DMV area. I know Goodwill puts on like thrift meetups. So if you really want to get into it, those are a couple of different ways as a consumer that you could. And then, as a reseller, the vintage scene is growing so much in DC. Like it's been around for a while, but I see new shops pop up all the time. And I think something that's really great is that there are really low barriers to entry for vintage selling now, just because so many people, do it over Instagram or online or even like reselling sites like Poshmark or Depop. So really just getting out there and having a collection and starting is really my recommendation. And then I actually run a WhatsApp group with all the vintage sellers in the DMV, and we kind of post opportunities for pop-ups and stuff there. So definitely feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to include you in that.
Okay, big question. So let's say it's a Sunday, it's a Saturday, the weather is great. You want to do some thrifting. What is Sydney's perfect full day of thrifting? And what would you eat along the way?
That is a great question, Bridget. I love this question so much. So I would say if we were going to do my favorite route, I would start in Maryland. So I know that's a little tough if you don't have access to a car, but I will say that this is my all-time favorite route. I would go first to Philo Cafe in North Bethesda, like Rockville area. It's on Bolingbrook Parkway. You can just look it up, but it's this really cute Filipino restaurant. And I love getting breakfast there. They have so many good options. And the best part is that it shares the same parking lot that my favorite Goodwill in the DMV area is in. There's a Goodwill that opens at 10 a.m. also in that same area on Bolingbrook Parkway. So you can hit the Filipino restaurant for breakfast and then head right over, can keep the car in the parking lot, head over to the Goodwill and check out that Goodwill. I think that Goodwill is great just because I think it's pulling from a couple of different areas in Maryland. And so I found some really exciting finds there. Specifically, the purses I think are top notch there. Next, I would hit the Unique on Veres Mill Road. That's in Silver Spring, Wheaton area. I just think that that's a great one. It's pretty large, not as large as the next store that we'd be going to, but I think it's a really great way to hit on your way to the next store. And it's only about like 6 minutes away from the Goodwill. So I would go there. And then after you're done with that one, if you have enough energy, I would go to the Silver Spring Double Unique. This one I feel like is a mecca. I feel like everyone knows about this one now, but there's so much in there. It's like a warehouse of goodies, and I feel like you can really take your time going through each side.
Yes, I love that place. I have a denim jacket that's sort of like, I think of as like my signature jacket, and I found it there.
Oh my God, I love that. Which side did you find it on? I feel like it's controversial.
Oh, wait, what is your take on the sides?
I have only heard that people start on the left side and they think that it's always better, but I think the right side is better. And that's a hot take, which is very niche in the thrifting community, but I always start on the right side. But, teach their own.
Yeah, I might be a bit basic because I found it on the left.
I love that for you. And then, when you're exhausted from doing that thrift store, I normally go to the Big Greek Cafe that is also in that parking lot. I just think that it's a great fast casual spot to get some Greek food. And then I'll head home. So that is my ideal thrifting day.
I appreciate that you laid this out in terms of like ease and parking lots and all of that. And people, like, if you're not a thrifter, it is like you end a big day of thrifting pretty tired. So, hydrate, wear comfy shoes, all of that.
100%. When I say that I've been doing this for a while now, I think that I've got it down to a science.
You are not new to this. You are true to this, my friend. Sydney, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you at the thrift shops.
Yes, I can't wait. Nice to meet you, Bridget.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with your favorite thrift enthusiast. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.